Good morning. I really appreciate the response, and I figured this would be maybe a little bit of an easier way to go about for my response to your video. I'm fully aware. I did watch the video twice, and I'm fully aware that you did talk about how you still do, appreciate this film, and you to a degree like this film. For me, I do love this film. This is, the horror slasher exploitation world is my favorite genre or genres. I love all kinds of genres of films, all kinds of styles of films. I recently did a show on Killers of the Flower Moon, the latest Martin Scorsese movie. So I love all kinds of styles of films, but I always kind of talk about how I always go back to my favorite genre, and that is the horror exploitation world, especially the slasher world. And those films, I feel, are at the core, the essence, are pure healthy escapism, and they deal in you know in the works or in the genre of fiction. And so I know on one hand you do say that you enjoy this film and that you actually like Sleepaway Camp, but you're also accusing it of being transphobic. And when someone or something is being, is essentially accused of either being like racist or hateful or homophobic, that's a pretty serious, or even say anti-Semitic, like that's a pretty serious accusation, and just the accusation alone can really have harmful effects, especially in the case of where it's unfounded and it's not true. Of course, there are people out there that are obviously, unfortunately, motivated by having those prejudices. That is a really horrible part of our nature, and why and I feel like there's been more awareness of people and those really horrible perspectives that certain people share or certain groups, and those things should be brought into light. But just now in this current time, when something is accused, when someone or something is accused of that by itself can really have an effect, mostly negative. And I do own Sleepaway Camp on Blu-ray. I've been a big fan of that film. I think it's one of the greatest in its genre. I think it's one of the most influential films of all time in the slasher genre. I think it has, and looking at the trajectory of that film, it came out. It initially did not do so well, and it has grown over these recent decades into it's acquired this huge cult fan base, and it's regarded as a cult classic, and one of the most influential slasher films of all time. And the I have the Blu-ray 4K version of it, and there's a lot of really great interviews with the cast and the filmmaker Robert Hitzig, and also people who were the producer on the film. And there's a big documentary or retrospective on the movie. And during the interview, Robert Hitzig really talks a lot about the idea that this film Sleepaway Camp, because of the nature of where we are now as a society, he more or less says that he doesn't, they don't really, they didn't, the people involved with Sleepaway Camp don't really, don't think the movie would be able to come out these, in this current age. It would be either censored or banned or picketed, and people would try to, you know, eradicate it from even coming out because of the, if you want to call it the political correctness climate, the area of where people are very sensitive to all kinds of material and want to use these political hashtags to everything or in regards to your political or social commentary. and that people are incredibly easy, just so easily offended by everything, and they can just throw out these labels and accusations, at the drop of a dime. And they basically, Robert Hitzig talks about he doesn't really think that this film could come out these days, in this day and age because of some of the subject matter. And so, and I never got any indication from seeing this film and watching it, documentaries about this film, seeing interviews of Robert Hitzig, that this film had any agenda as far as attacking someone of a certain sexual persuasion, or is had any kind of racist or sexist agenda to of accusing or of attacking any kind of group or person. This film is, it's a slasher film. It's a horror. It's a low down, dirty horror slasher exploitation movie. That's really all it is. And if anything, it is a film that, and I don't believe it's true, but if anything, it's a movie that could be looked at as empowering for women or people who are transgender. But I think first and foremost, this film is just what it is. It's pure entertainment. And if you like films that have that low budget nature, copious amounts of gore and violence, and it's just healthy, fun escapism, that's what you'll get with Sleepaway Camp. I don't believe there's any political or socio-political agenda with the film, and for a film to be for you to accuse the Robert Hitzig and the filmmakers for Sleepaway Camp that they have an agenda or had an agenda when they made this film to more or less put the idea out that the idea of living a transgender lifestyle is going to essentially lead you to become a serial killer, and that they were using this as a framework in the story and the narrative, that their view of that particular lifestyle is essentially evil and vile and disgusting, and that's going to lead you to become a serial killer is I feel a completely unfounded and dangerous accusation when there's no truth to that in any way, shape, or form. And I think, one of the biggest examples of that, of where a film becomes so politicized, is a film called Black Christmas. The original, which came out in '74, there was a remake of that in 2019. That film is so overtly political and clearly has an agenda. I think that film should be discussed more in that light, where there is a clear and direct focus on political and socio-political and sexual issues and certain lifestyles, where that movie is overtly about those things, and it does have an agenda. And I feel like, for me personally, that film crosses a line, because I don't want to see a film, even though I might agree with their viewpoints, whether they're political or social, what have you. I don't want to be hit over the head with a hammer. I don't want to be told what to believe. I don't want to be told I need to think this way. I want to, as a viewer, I want to make up my own mind, and I want to, enjoy it for what it is, which is hopefully a good film, and I can escape for those 2 hours. But I don't want to be hit over the head. And again, even if I do agree with a certain agenda or a stance, I don't want to be hit over the head with it and be told what to do. Black Christmas, the remake, in 2000, that came out in 2019, is an example of that. That film should be discussed. I think that film could be very well looked at in that light of where, well, no, Sleepaway Camp, it clearly does not have an agenda, where is this example, Black Christmas 2019, the remake from '74, clearly does have an agenda. It's an entirely different kind of a film. And so to make those accusations, I think is really dangerous. I think, and because of the climate and kind of this mentality that we are in now, it's it's evolved to where I feel it's a real, ironically, a really conservative environment. I think, and so a lot of films have been, and for that matter, remakes of certain films that came out in the '70s and '80s are these newer versions of certain films have become really sanitized, and they are, some filmmakers are going out of their way not to go into certain areas of where they feel the story should naturally go because of their fear of offending someone. I think a perfect example that of a film that could not be made today would be Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles. There's a whole slew of movies I feel like in our current climate would not get financed, would not see the light of day because of these films would be accused of these very very things, whether it was being accused of being racist or homophobic or just hateful, when these are works of fiction and there is no political thing. And I think one of the hardest genres that have been hit because of this, or the high, the biggest form of entertainment that's been hit the hardest because of this kind of climate that we're in, is the comedy genre. I think now, you see so many things that come out now, as far as new comedy films, or where comedians who are on the road, they are being censored. There are areas where they're not being able to explore, to talk about, and because of the sense that people are going to be offended and just horrified. Whereas it's if anything, those things should be explored. We have to be able to not take ourselves seriously, but then also take ourselves seriously. And I feel like comedy has been probably the most greatly affected by our climate, of where we are right now. And I think, again, films have been too. I honestly feel that a lot of movies that I love, especially in the horror exploitation world, would not be able to be made today because of the climate that we're at, and that people are going to overtly attack something that it has an agenda, and that it's essentially hate speech, and that's a horrible thing. That, to me, that's, if anything, that's unpatriotic. It's un-American. We have a lot, many many problems in this country, but we at least have the freedom to express ourselves, and it crosses a fine line, or it can cross a fine line about censorship and being able to speak freely and be able to express ourselves, whether it's having a discussion, or, and especially in these terms of being able to create art without risk of being censored. And it's a very dangerous precedent.